Serendipity, it means that something happens and something else good happens which you didn't intend. A lot of people think that these things happen by chance, but I don't think so, because you have been thinking about it a lot and somebody else has been thinking about it similarly a lot, and then it meet and then it happens. So it's not by chance. I think your thoughts have made them happen, and because you are not conscious about it, it appears as if it happens by chance. The move to the UK was a silly risk that only young people can make, because when I landed in Heathrow Airport, then it dawned on me that I didn't have a job, I didn't have a place to stay, I have only £1,000 in my pocket. I have to make it in 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, I'll be broke. I have to come back to Singapore with nothing. So I was willing to take that risk. I didn't know anybody. And the agent that spoke to me when I was in Australia was a very smooth speaking salesman, because I asked him what are the chances of me getting a job over there, and he simply said, well, it depends on how you do in the interview. So I thought, wow, good chance, because normally I do well in interviews. But when I went there, he couldn't even remember my name. Who? Michael? Who? Okay, no problem. We'll look out for you. Then I was thinking, you mean you were not looking out for me until I call you, right? So that was quite a disappointment. And then, of course, the financial risk. I didn't have a lot of money. Physically, I could only stay in the very cheap places like King's Cross, which is basically a red light district. So on the streets, there will be hookers and drug addicts and all that. And again, I had to learn to be streetwise very quickly. From the station to the hotel, I walked very quickly and right into the hotel. And in the hotel, well, still a very cheap hotel. In the hotel, at least it's safe because they are not allowed to go in. And even the hotel residents were kind of down and out people. A lot of them are paid by Social Security to have a room there. Otherwise, they'll be homeless kind of people. They're not working. Most of them, they're not working. They're living on government handouts and all that. So some of them are friendly, and you don't know whether they're friendly for a good reason or bad reason. So you have to make your judgment very quickly. You don't want to be a snob either. You don't want to be somebody that ignores people just because they're poor, right? If I'm going to do it again, I'll do the same. It was harder to do those things at that time because there wasn't the internet and social media and YouTube. You really have very scant information. If I'm going to do it today, it's very easy. Nowadays, it's quite common. I hear people from Peru, for example, got a job in Singapore through the internet. Right? It's possible and it's easier because you fix everything, contract, sign everything, then you fly over. Those days, no, everything is still paper. You still send by post or you fax it through a machine. And to find a machine is quite expensive. I mean, you can't buy a machine those days easily like that. So you find a hotel and then you sweet talk the hotel man and then you pay some money and he fax it to the agent for you. So a lot of things that we take for granted now were very difficult. Then after that, the 6th week, I was almost giving up. Then this agent saw that I was so depressed. I work hard for you. And he got me a job. Yeah. And thereafter, once you get started, then it was easier. You are a proven track record in the country. You get other contracts. By the way, I was a freelancer. I was not an employee. So I get contracts after contracts. And after UK, I moved over to Brussels. From Brussels, I wanted to go to Germany. Didn't make it the first time. I went to Holland. After that, Germany, Luxembourg, Hungary, South Africa, Middle East, Japan, Malaysia, all over the world. So they were very laborious days. They were very tedious. Life was hard because on paper you plan that you can spend 3 months in this country and then 3 months in that country, but the adjustments and arrangements and the dangers and the risks just tired me out. At the moment now, back in Singapore, I really don't like to travel. I don't even travel for leisure now. So many people, when they ask me, are you traveling these holidays? I say, no, what for? I'm quite relaxed now. If I travel, I come back, I need another holiday, right? Well, I think right from the beginning, I've never been an employee other than national service, which is compulsory in Singapore, which you get a paycheck regularly, right? But other than that, I have always been a freelance. So freelancing has a certain entrepreneurial zeal to it, particularly if we are looking internationally. So I started that way, and there are instances where a few of us freelancers will gather together, form a company, because then we can bid for bigger projects. So the two companies that I set up eventually, one is a consulting company, a cybersecurity consulting company, which I have a small team and we do small stuff. The second one is a waste to energy system company, which we take garbage and bake it in think of it as a gigantic oven. We bake it, get the steam out. When the steam gets out, it generates electricity through steam turbines. And then the garbage, actually about 80% of such garbage are organic waste. Well, a lot of it is water, but other than that, the solids are about 80% is organic waste, and you probably have 20% of recyclables. The organic waste are also recyclables. They can be fertilizer and soil and compacted and sanitized to make bricks, hollow blocks, and all that to make buildings. But the recyclables will be aluminum, glass, metal. Yeah. So those are recyclable. And the system that we sold was quite advanced for its time. It automatically separates the recyclables using, and also no need to have a physical manual intervention for separation. So that was a good technology. That was something which don't need to have extensive explanation. Unlike the other company that I formed, Cybersecurity, which if you roll back during that time, people didn't know what was cybersecurity. In fact, we didn't call it cybersecurity. The term was not invented yet. We call it information security, which is a more accurate description because you are protecting the information, right? So for that business, I have to explain everything, and people still do not understand. I mean, if you have to explain a product, it's very hard to sell. So I went into this other product, which is waste to energy system, which didn't need much explanation. I said, give me your garbage. I turn it to money. Not much explanation needed, right? They won't be asking for the voltage and all that unless their engineers are there. They won't be asking for voltage and detail like that. So it was easy to explain that those machines are very advanced machines and they are very expensive. And the countries that need them the most, like Indonesia and Philippines and all, they do not have the money. So you have to think of ways of funding these projects. And they too, of course, will look at funding the projects. And one of the other major hurdles of selling machines like this is always the question about how long is the return of investment? When will I break even, right? And of course, it will not be within 5 years. And they all want it within 5 years because that is the term that the politician has. So they don't want to take the risk, spend the money, have that machine installed, then they get voted out of power, and then the next person benefit from it. In fact, we gave them 12 years, and ROI length, the period problem, and then also them funding themselves is quite a problem. So they also had some dubious way of finding funding, and that I found, or my partners and me found to be a little bit risky. If you are going into a new business or new concept, there'll be more hard to sell. So the risk was very big, actually. And I was also in the wrong country. Singapore is a trading country. Up till today, is trading, mostly trading. We have done well. We try to do other things, right? We try to do technology, pharmaceutical, but mostly it's trading. So there isn't this culture of looking at technology in substantial depth. Okay, if you are a PhD student doing AI in a university, yeah, you look at that, but you're an exception, right? But generally, if you meet another, say, a professional accountant or a doctor, it's unlikely that he talks about information security or cyber security, or willing to listen to you explaining it. The country has put in money to support startups and all that, but startups is hit and miss, right? I mean, most startups will fail within 18 months, I think. Yeah. There are different categories of countries. You have the Western developed countries, including Australia, the oil-rich countries, which is Middle East, the emerging countries in East Asia, at that time still emerging. Now it's more emergent. You have a category of newly liberated countries. So, for instance, South Africa, post-apartheid, Hungary just got out from hardcore communism, the Iron Curtain. Hong Kong, I was there before the handover to China. The different categories present different risks. The Western developed countries has the lowest risk. There was just so much economic activity at that time, and there was a lot of emphasis on technology. Those were the Cold War days as well, where the military spends a lot of R&D for technology that creates more jobs, even spreading it to the civilian sector. East Asia also quite low risk because generally safe. The economy was also growing. The newly liberated countries, they are a bit funny. Other than Hong Kong, Hong Kong life went on almost the same. But South Africa is dangerous. I mean, apartheid time was a lot safer than post-apartheid time. It was very dangerous for men and women, for anybody. You see people carrying guns. Okay, Hungary would have been that unsafe if the people are uneducated and uncultured, but Hungary is actually a very cultured place. When I hop into the real estate agent's car, he's a broken down Lada, actually. And he was asking me, what books do I read? Yeah, in Singapore, which is a lot richer than Hungary even today, I can't imagine a real estate agent asking me, what books do I read? What concerts am I going to watch tonight? And if I say yes, you describe the concert for me.
Right.
So Hungary was able to achieve a very respectable level of stability. There are still some petty people trying to cheat you in restaurants, get you drunk and take your money. It happens.
Right.
We walk into a very rough basement cavern, a bar as well, where it's just the wrong bar. Every city has that. I think the riskier part is the new economies and South Africa or different parts of Africa as well. What kind of sales method do you want to use? You want to sell by telling them what you know and they are confident of you and then they hire your services, or you want to sell them fear? Do you want to sell them that if you don't hire my services, you go ahead and hire some mediocre people. You run the risk of losing a lot of money in a security breach and all that. So some people, they will sell by fear. And it seems that fear works. People like to be scared. Risk to one person may not be risk to another person. A risk is an opportunity, because if things are too stable, good stuff has already all been taken. So there need to be certain risks. Thereafter, you have to think about what your risk appetite is. That if I take up this, it fails totally, will I be wiped out? And if I've been wiped out, what is the next step I'm going to do? So you need to have a bit of safe, soft landing if you take risk. But taking risk, you must, because if a person who hasn't taken risk in his life, he hasn't done anything. I got a message that they're looking for an actor for their short film. And out of curiosity, I said yes. And when I turned up for the audition and subsequently the rehearsals, the director was very generous with her compliments about my ability to act. And at that time, I believed her. I didn't know any better. I believed her. Okay, you say I'm good, I'm good.
Right.
If she had said that, look, Michael, you're really bad, please give up and die, I wouldn't have blamed her at all. And therein lies the importance of telling an honest positive. And look how far this honest positive had taken me. It has given me the courage to go into the industry, to step in. And by now, 15 years later, I've done over 400 productions. I won several awards, including behind the camera, which eventually I made my own content, and have numerous productions gone viral. So gone viral, you're talking about 3 million to 30 million, 40 million views. So those were totally unexpected. Just prior to her sending an email, I didn't even think that I'll become an actor, let alone one that has won awards and been to places and having viral videos, and now eventually making your own videos and also winning awards from those videos. So the first step, why it happens, I don't know. I asked her why she chose me. She said gut feeling, and that's very arty-farty answer. It doesn't quite help me. So perhaps subconsciously, I have already thought about it, maybe to tell stories, for instance. because before that I was blogging about my travels and my experience, my meditation. So that is a kind of storytelling just by pictures and text. So this has extended to moving visuals and sound. The mind must have been thinking about it subconsciously. So as I said, if your thoughts travel and somebody else's thought coincide with you, eventually he or she finds you and then you hit it and make something. I think it was risky because, hey, I didn't know anything. I have to spend a lot of time. Time spent there is an opportunity cost for doing something else. As it turned out, it's good. I think the stories that has gone viral were viral for reasons. They touch a lot of hearts, tell a lot of stories, send a lot of messages. It probably has helped a lot of people. I got fan mails nowadays, some of them thanking me for making the film. One of them had depression, and he said that after watching my film, he could move on. Yeah, so he was stuck in a rut. And this is totally unplanned. After making the film and gone viral, he watched it and it has helped his life. A lot of others, because subsequently when another film went viral, I got even a soldier from that South Indian military base called Garcia something. Yeah. He texted me and I thought this must be a scam. Who lives there, right? I mean, there's hardly anything happening there. That, as it turned out, it was true, and he thanked me because he said he can relate to it very well. It has messages and lessons that he learned from the film. So this is now a more generous way of saying that it benefit others. So the risk was well taken, well taken. But in terms of money, of course, entertainment is a very tough industry. It's probably one of the toughest industry around. It is an industry that you have to keep going for auditions, which is like interviews, right? Whereas if I find a job as a cybersecurity officer, I have one interview and that if I don't quit, I can stay in that job for 10 years, 20 years. No, for acting, every job you go for an audition. Very rarely that you do not need an audition.
Right.
So even if you are a big shot or now by then I have awards and a few viral videos, you are still treated the same. You stand in the line. When it's your turn, you go into the room, you do your lines and present your scene and see whether the director will be treating you like a newbie, actually like a beginner, and say, can you do this scene slightly different with your different emotions and stuff like that? So you still be treated the same. So it is a consistent test of your confidence and your craft if you're an actor. In hindsight, listening to the first director that gave me a lot of compliments, and she was surprised that I could deliver a lot better than, I suppose, her other candidates. Then I was wondering why, and I can even cry on cue. So there is a scene where there's a lady and me, we are talking, and then both of us eventually cry in the scene. But the girl cannot cry, and girls usually are more emotional and more easily to get into a crying state. So the director paused the shooting. He said, okay, pause. Anyway, we have to adjust the lights. So they adjusted the lights. And while I was waiting, they said, Michael and Vanessa, you all don't move. Stand there because you don't change the spot. We measured the spot already while you adjust the lights. So standing there, not moving, and just able to move my mouth, quite boring. So I started joking with her. Then I laugh, she laughs and all that. And the director said, Michael, stop joking. Keep in the emotion because she needs to cry later. Now, how can you both be joking and laughing, right? Then I turned to the director very arrogantly. I told her, look, when your cameras roll, I can cry. What's your problem? And she said, you can, but she cannot.
Right.
Then I realized, oh yeah, that's true. So from then on, these days, whenever they are adjusting lights or having a pause, I would keep in the emotions and character to respect the director and also to give the co-actors the same environment and ambience to deliver later. And I was wondering why I can do that and she cannot, right? I thought back, I roll it back, and I think it's because of meditation. Meditation clears up the mind. And when the mind is clear, then new characters can get in more easily. So it's like a cup. The usefulness of the cup is in its emptiness. If the cup is full, then I try to pour tea in, it can only overflow. So same with the mind. If the mind is full, it's very hard to get into another character. And that explains why some actors who are full of themselves will be the same in any character they act in. They
Right.
cannot be somebody else. So of course, for any actor, even if you can get into another character, right, you still retain maybe 20% of yourself. That's normal. But some actors is 100%. Yeah, you act as a villain, this character. Act as a nice father, this character, the same. Yeah, so meditation had helped a lot, and that's how I get a lot of achievements in acting. Because if you think about acting, is living sincerely under imaginary circumstances, and that means researching the character, getting into character, getting in emotions, and eventually doing it so smooth that the audience have forgotten that you are acting. They are totally into it. They think they are in the story themselves. And that is the emotional connection that we want to achieve. And when that is achieved, then you experience magic. And even on a stage, I've been in stage performance before where I did that particular act, and there was absolute silence. The auditorium was like thousands of people, right? It was absolute silence for that 1 minute or something. You can almost hear the pin drop, and that's where you realize you have made an emotional connection instantly with so many people. That's magic. That's absolute magic. If I don't take those risks, then I wouldn't have experience and open a lot of doors. But that said, that is a survivor bias. I mean, if I'm dead, then wouldn't be telling you this, right? Even as late as getting into acting, it was a world that I didn't know existed, right? How you get into emotions, how you get into a different character, how you tell stories, how you get totally immersed into something and make that magical emotional connection with a huge audience instantly. It's quite hard to plan my future mechanically or in a structured, rational way. Usually I do that. And it seldom go according to plan. But things will happen, like the sudden desire to study in Australia and seeing a newsletter saying there are opportunities in UK. I went. Then getting to become an actor out of the blue. So usually the successful transitions happens when I see a certain spark. So for instance, sometimes I wake up in the morning, a certain word will appear in my mind like lecturing, and that fire up my entire body. Every cell is active and interested in that word, only for less than a second.
Right.
And recognizing that split second is very important because that is a message. I don't know from where. That's a message that is something you ought to be going in and you can't go wrong. The next step is to do it. And when you do it, it does not necessarily mean that it's easy. You may have problems and misunderstanding, but this is something you need to do. And the trick is to recognize this spark. I'm getting better at recognizing such sparks nowadays. I think those days it happened to me, but I didn't take it seriously. Now I do. I take